welcome to the last but not least, the final 10th anniversary video. Back in the spring and early summer, I posted some videos celebrating the very first videos that I put up on this channel in 2007. And they're significant because that was around the same time that I started getting back into guitar building. And I thought it'd be a neat idea to go back and revisit these videos and to post them 10 years to the date. I was really looking forward to this video because I thought about doing this video years ago before the whole 10th anniversary thing came up. So it was a nice it was a nice excuse to get this one done. But I'm not going to do 10th anniversary videos for every video that I make, just that first year. But the last video I uploaded in 2007 was the machine gun guitar, or otherwise known as the Piece. And this is a really significant guitar to me because it's the very first guitar that I built, and I built this in high school and in 1986. I'm going to do this in a two-part video because the first one I'm going to talk about how I created it, how it came to be, and then the second video will be about what happened to this guitar after high school and through the years, the last 31 years, what has happened to it and what I've learned from it, things like that. So that's how we're going to do this. So anyway, let's go back to 1986, and I'm in my final year of high school, grade 13, here in London, Ontario, H.B. Beale Secondary School. It's a tech school, and it has one of the best art programs in southwestern Ontario, or I would say all of Canada. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot, and I'm heading into my final semester. It's called 3D art, 3D sculpture, and my teacher was John Craigsman, who I incidentally ran into about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I hadn't seen him since high school. I was in the grocery store, and he goes, "How are those guitars coming along?" And I look at him like, "Who's this guy?" It's like, oh my God, it's John Craigsman. He recognized me because he saw me in the paper. And I thought that was really, really cool. I was talking about guitars, and I probably mentioned this guitar. And he remembers me making this. He remembers that whole thing. That was, 31 years ago. He's taught a lot of kids, hundreds, thousands of kids. And I was really impressed that he remembered me and my dumb little guitar. So that was really, really cool. And he's retired now. So that was neat to run into him and talk to him. But anyways, back to 1986. I'm in that class, and he announces what the project will be, our final project, and it has to be made out of two out of three materials: wood, plastic, or metal. As soon as I heard that, I thought of guitars, and at this point, I had been playing guitar for a few years, and I destroyed my first guitar by taking it apart and tinkering with it and painting it and God knows what else until it wasn't even playable anymore. So I knew at some point I would build a guitar. I knew that's the kind of guy I was at the time. I would just, figure it out somehow. But this art class, you can build sculptures. I mean, this was not like an art class with easels or a regular classroom with little desks. This was a machine shop with great big workbenches and things like that. Some really significant tools. So I knew that the class was definitely capable. I was capable of building a guitar in this class, no problem. So, but the thing that really clinched it was he said this project had to be functional. So it means that whatever you're making, it's got to work. It has to be useful. It has to have a purpose to it. A guitar, it'll work. So right away I knew. I announced to my friends that sitting around me that I'm going to build a guitar, which I think they thought that was a little ambitious at the time. Maybe I was not really thinking this through, but I was excited about it. And right away I started drawing little pictures of what this thing would look like. And I knew I didn't want to just build a regular looking guitar that you would see anywhere else. I wanted to make it different. I wanted it to be kind of cool and unusual, and it had to have a purpose to why it's unusual. So I started drawing pictures, and I really wasn't getting anywhere. But at Beale, the art class was 2 periods long. So while the rest of the school went from math to geography or whatever, we would have a little break. So across the street from the school was a variety store called the Hasty Market, and they had a bakery in it. And I'd go over there with my buddy Paul, and we'd get a pastry or chocolate milk and that. And we'd have a little smoke break, and but there was a huge magazine rack in this place, and I looked down and they sold several gun magazines, and I looked at these things, and I'd probably seen a machine-shaped gun or a machine-shaped guitar before. I didn't come up with that whole concept, but I looked at these magazines, I was looking through them, I was like, that's it, this is what I'm going to do. It's going to be a machine gun shaped guitar. I said to my buddy Paul, that's what I'm going to do, machine gun shaped guitar. He probably looked at me like, whatever, buddy, good luck. So that's an ambitious project. So anyways, I went back with tons of enthusiasm, and I went back and I told everybody else, yeah, this is going to be a machine gun shaped guitar. And I started drawing pictures of it, and people started talking to me about it, and we kind of shooting things back. A little brainstorming session, which was really interesting because a lot of people helped me with this as far as the ideas went. The whole name, The Piece, spelled peace. I don't know if that was my idea, but as soon as I heard it, I knew that was going to be its name, and that right then and there made it an art project. It was kind of funny. It was kind of, people caught the humor in that. But another guy was looking at my drawings, and I was drawing pictures of like a 1920s Tommy gun. And he's like, no, a machine gun, like an M16, he drew pictures, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. So based off his drawings, I came up with that shape, and then I started drawing pictures and filling in like where the pickup would go, and the volume knob, and the bridge and everything else, and how it would be shaped, and with the neck and stuff like that. Once I had my blueprint kind of thing, I went to town. So the first thing that I realized was I couldn't make every part of the guitar. I had to buy something. I mean, the hardware, the bridge, the pickups, things like that. The course was a 10-week course, so I had a lot of time, but there was no way I was going to make those things. They were going to have to be store-bought. So a friend of mine, Lori, said that her brother, Marty, had been playing guitar, and he had tried to paint or rebuild his guitar, which was a SG copy, but I think he'd kind of given up on it and was looking to sell it. So she said, do I want to buy what he had left? And I said, sure. So I bought what he had left for $50. And if I remember properly, she came to school with a grocery bag with a body and a neck, neck sticking out. They weren't attached, and all the pieces sitting in the bottom of this. And I was happy. I had half a guitar or whatever it was. I had all the things I needed. But the only thing I really used out of all those pieces was the neck. I used the neck and the neck plate, and probably the screws as well. And it's a really skinny neck plate. But anyway, this was an SG-shaped headstock too, by the way. And I cut it down so that it looked similar, like a gun barrel. And I had the sight. In the drawing, I had a sight added on here. But when I was cutting this, I forgot about it. I just cut it right off, which, I don't know, I kind of like that it's not there now. As far as the hardware, I bought the hardware all at a guitar shop, all brand new. I went and I bought a Seymour Duncan pickup. I knew Eddie Van Halen had that in the 5150. $85 brand new back in 1986. The bridge is a Shaler, and I bought that, I think that was around $85 as well. I bought that because of how large it looks. I liked that look to it. It filled in the body because I was afraid that, a regular stop tailpiece would look kind of insignificant, or, but this gave it some bulk. It's supposed to be a machine gun. All the electronics, the pot and the switch and the output I bought, and the knob from Radio Shack. I don't know why, but that's where I got it from. The original tuners were Shalers as well, but they were all 6 in a line. I didn't realize that there was a difference between 6 in a line and 3 on each side. So of course when I installed them, they were lopsided. They were uneven. I thought it was kind of cool at the start, but then after a while it bothered me years later, and I did replace them. But so I had parts. The body I made out of plywood. And the teacher said, if there's anything in the classroom that you can use that's left over from somebody else, by all means take that before you buy new materials or bring other materials into the class, use up some of that old stuff. So I went through the piles of stuff that they had there, and I pulled out this piece of plywood, and it was like 2 by 2, you know, like 2 feet by 2 feet, and it was 3/4 of an inch thick, and it was all covered in spray paint. I was like, this is perfect. And at the time, I didn't really know much about how wood affects tone and things. I didn't care. This looked perfect for me. So I went to my teacher. I said, how much do you want for this? And he looked at it. It was like beat up and full of spray paint. Because you can have that. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but just take it. Glad to get out of here. So what I did is I scraped all the paint off, cut it in half, glued it together. In fact, where the neck joins, this is halfway. I couldn't figure out how I was going to cut out the neck pocket and keep it nice and clean. And then I thought, 3/4 of an inch is halfway. It's going to be just about perfect, and it worked out nice. This piece I left that on, and then the top piece I cut out where the neck goes. So that worked out nice. I remember doing that. I cut it out with a bandsaw and shaped most of it with a barrel sander. We had one of those in that class. The most creative part, I think, as far as the body went, was trying to shape the gun stock, because I think I did a really good job on that. I was really happy how it turned out. And being that it was made out of plywood really helped in shaping it, because with the layers of plywood, as I started shaping this, it left lines, and I could clearly see how straight I was going when I was shaping it. And it also helped me to mirror one side to the other, so I could look back and forth and match up the lines so that visually it's the same on both sides and not kind of lopsided. But it was funny because I shaped this headstock. I went to my teacher and I had like a grinder type tool with a sanding disc on it, and I said, I'm going to do the stocking because that's going to make a lot of dust. Maybe you should go outside, set up some sawhorses and do it out there. So out in the old alleyway of H.B. Beale, I was out there for an entire 2 periods just shaping this gun stock, and probably listening to Van Halen in my headphones. So being that this was a 10-week course, seems like there was a lot of time, but I remember spending enormous amounts of time on this. I would spend extra time in the class because that's the only class I had. There were 2 periods in the morning. In the afternoon I had nothing. I'd go home or see my girlfriend at another school. But I would stay, and the teacher said, as long as you stay out of the other kids' way, because that's their time, you can stay here and do whatever you want. So I would sit and work on it, and I would bring it home, and I would also spend weekends and things like that. But I remember buying can after can of great car primer to fill in all the low spots in the body. And you can imagine, being that it's plywood, the edges were not too smooth. And I really didn't know much about Bondo or wood filler, or anything like that, which would have speeded things up. I remember basically just spraying this with car primer, letting it dry, then sanding it down, spraying it again, sanding it down until all the low spots were full of car primer. It must have taken me weeks. I probably spent a lot of that time just sanding. I remember sanding. I don't know exactly how long, but I remember I spent a lot of time doing that. But eventually I did a pretty good job. It looks pretty good, you know. Who knows how many cans of car primer went into this. But so it was coming together, and it was getting down to the point where I was going to paint it. And originally I used like a rust paint, like Tremclad, and I sprayed it, started on the body, started spraying. I think I was trying to get like a really nice high gloss coat. I'd done a lot of spray painting at the time, but I remember it ran and sagged. It turned out horrible, and I was so upset with myself and so angry, and right away I just started wiping it down, getting off all the paint. And once it dried, I had to sand it down and start from scratch, like not reprimer it, but get it ready for another paint job. And this time I decided to change to a different kind of paint. I went with the car lacquer. And then I decided to make it two-tone, which I really, really liked. And it worked out a lot better. I had no problems, except I did have a little bit of a run in here. And I remember just taking my finger and going like that with it. I thought, oh, I'll touch that up later. I never have, and you can still see my finger mark in it. That's kind of cool. I never touched up. I like that. The fretboard was rosewood, so I didn't think that would really fit the whole idea of a machine gun. So this is car lacquer as well, but I bought one of those touch-up pens. I don't know why I didn't just spray it, but I used touch-up paint. So I went fret by fret, and I remember I cut little circles out of masking tape and stuck them on where the fret markers go. And there's a little spot that's worn here where you can see through, which is fine. It looks kind of cool. But that's really thick car paint on there, because that touch-up paint comes out a lot thicker. So I had my hardware, I had my neck, I had the body going. So again, I put so much time into it, but still, I worked on it almost to the last second. I remember the day before the project was due, I was still assembling this thing and probably wiring it up. And I ran into school with it that day, and I showed it to my teacher. He grabbed it and he played, I remember it was the D chord. Why I remember that, but, and he strummed it and he goes, wow, I didn't think you could do this. And I don't think he took it as he wasn't confident in me. I think he just thought that it was such an ambitious project that it just wasn't going to get done or turn out as nice as it did. So I took that as a compliment, and I was pretty happy with that. I kind of surprised him and showed him that it does work and it plays. But at Beale, we have a thing there. They still do it. It's called a year-end show, where all the students take the projects that they've worked on and they can show them, and I'm pretty sure they can even sell them. I wasn't going to sell this, but this was in the year-end show, and a lot of people liked it and talked about it, and I got a lot of reactions from people, and I was really kind of proud of that and happy. And then after the year-end show, of course, I was able to take it home, and I remember being on the bus, taking this home on the bus, and people looking at me with this, like, what does this guy have? It attracted a lot of attention. And but one thing, because I didn't really play it until after the year-end show, I discovered that I'd made a mistake, and that was that the body is so tiny and so light that when you're playing it, like standing up, that the neck, it's heavy. It's neck heavy, so you're supporting the neck as you're playing it, making it very awkward. And when you're sitting down, there's no body here, so it sits very low, and your hand will hit your leg, and again, it's awkward. So I tried to think of what I could do to figure this out, but I had a store-bought guitar, my West Tone, which I played all the time, and I just, I gravitate towards that. And this, unfortunately, became kind of a wall hanger guitar for many, many years, about 14 years. It just, I'd take it down and play it every once in a while, but I vowed that I would never strip any of the parts off of it, that I would keep it as it is, because I was proud that I had built a guitar. I never thought I would ever build another one, or maybe I'd never build another one, which I have, but I kept this all together. So this, I think we'll cut it here for this video, and like I said, being that this is a two-parter, and we'll talk about what happened to this guitar after high school, and how I figured out little problems and how it influenced me with my guitar building now. So thanks for watching this video and the other ones. Check out my other videos on the channel. Check out Johnny B Guitars on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Everything's Johnny B Guitars. Just Google that. Wherever I am, that's the name I'll use. Subscribe, because you don't want to miss anything that's coming up, this or any of my other projects. So thanks for watching this. We'll see you in the next video.